So before we start, I just want you to leave all your worries behind and focus on this so we can get 1 hour of knowledge out of this. I know some of you have kids, some of you have work that's at the back of your mind. So just leave all your worries behind and then let's start with this. Okay, so you know how interior designers always select the best materials for their own home? Today, we are going to give you some skills to do that. We won't cover all the materials, of course, because there's too much materials in renovation to do so, but we'll cover the ones that will probably impact you and your renovation very greatly in terms of budget. Okay, so who is this webinar especially for? This webinar is for home owners intending to embark on a renovation project, and you would like to know which materials are best suited for you. Also for homeowners in the midst of a renovation project and want to make informed decisions on materials to select quality materials. Also for homeowners looking to invest in the right materials for your home to save money in the long run and to avoid the hassle of frequent repairs and or replacements. So who is this not for? It's not for those looking for the lowest cost materials, because today what we are geared for is looking for materials that will actually last in the long run. So not so much for short-term use for a couple of months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So this is usually for at least 5, 10, 15 years and beyond. Okay. And what we will cover today, 3 main things. We'll talk about floors and walls. In particular, the common types of finishing for floors and walls, and ways to keep within budget. Carpentry, what are the core materials? What is it actually made of? External and internal finishes. There are a few to select from. And of course, kitchens and bathrooms. Usually that's the bulk of our renovation costs, and so we actually need to use materials for heavy duty usage because of the humidity, because of the water, because of heat, and of course scratch resistance. There's a lot of usage in these areas. So why we selected floors and walls, carpentry, and kitchens and bathrooms? Because this will actually make up a good chunk of your renovation budget. So if you play around with these, you can actually control your budget very well. So we'll be sharing more on this. So do stay tuned right to the end. We will be, at the end, we'll actually be giving out a material specification template. So if you stay right at the end, you'll receive that. And most importantly, at the end of it, you'll be able to select materials for your home with no regrets. So have you ever bought something and it started to fall apart a year later? Or do you constantly have things breaking down in your home? So I remember when I fixed up this bookshelf, it was brand new, I fixed it up, and then I started booking books on it, and immediately it started to warp. So I couldn't use it for more than a year, and I was afraid it was going to start to break already at the start. So are you bothered by frequent repairs and maintenance? You know, if let's say sometimes you use certain materials like marble, there's a lot of maintenance that you have to do. You have to do sealing, you know, you have to apply a sealer on it all the time. Are you bothered by that? Are you fed up with all these repairs? Or have you ever paid a tidy sum for something of low quality? So if you face one or more of these, today we are going to try to help you to gain some knowledge. So when you do your home shopping, your renovation, your furniture shopping, you can avoid these pitfalls. So as I said, we'll help you to save money in the long run, because imagine if you have to buy a bookshelf every year, that's going to add up quite a bit versus getting a sturdy bookshelf that can last you at least 10 years or more. So for us, we want to do a little shift. We don't want to always go for the lowest. We want to know what is good quality. So sometimes there are deals whereby you get really good quality things at a low price, but not always. So we'll give you the general pricing of how certain quality products will cost later on. And then if you need more details, you can ask me in the Q&A. So to start with, who are we? Okay, my name is Jamie. I'm the co-founder of HYJK Design. So I was actually from the corporate world and I decided to step out to do what I'm really passionate in, which is interior design. So I'm proud to say that HYJK Design is now Case Trust accredited. We are also recognized in the industry, receiving invitations to private events in the architecture and design world. We also have repeat clients and even clients to send us on all expense paid trips, overseas trips, and for shopping and procurement. And of course, we have also made lots of fantastic partners that our clients always compliment on. So we started back in 2015, 5+ years ago, and we were unknown back then. So with humble beginnings, working out from our home in our apartment. So to give a bit of background, I actually studied food science in NUS. I wasn't really into research. I wanted something more dynamic, so I went into banking. I was doing well in credit cards, product management, learned a lot, learned to work with all sorts of people, from CEOs to ops and tech. But hours were crazy, and most importantly, it wasn't my passion. So I know it wasn't something I was going to do for life. Back then, my husband, my partner for HYJK Design, was in P&G, and he still very much had ties to the design world and always wanted to start a business. He studied design in NUS and was doing freelancing whenever his professors needed help. So when we were doing up our place, we weren't very knowledgeable about materials. What happened was that whatever the interior designer showed us, there was just only one catalog, and please select for this catalog, and that's it. So we didn't know better about more options. Also for our carpentry, they told us, oh, medium density fiberboard, MDF, is commonly used in the interior design world. So that's what they actually asked us to use. So we actually used that, not knowing that actually MDF is not as good as plywood and will not last as long. So I stayed in my place for about 5 years or so, and I see a lot of warping. I have oxidation from my mirrors. It's starting turning black in a lot of places. So that's all due to poor material selection for my needs. So we want to help others to avoid all these pitfalls. Because after 5 years and looking at my own place, I'm like, okay, I need to do something about it soon. Okay, so over the years, we actually developed our own systems and processes. For us, we are experts in space optimization, so we have a space optimization blueprint. And so using that same process that I'll talk to you about later on, that is what you can do to actually select the right materials for your home. Okay, so we'll jump into floors and walls, and now we'll have a little poll. We'll launch a poll. Want to find out how many of you like marble and how many of you don't like marble. Because a lot of apartments in Singapore actually comes with marble flooring. Most of the time it's compressed marble flooring, and most of the time it's actually not very good. The marble is actually not very good. It's just compressed marble, and it's a cheap $13 per square foot kind of marble. But some apartments come with very expensive marble. Some people don't like them. Some people, they're okay with them. Yeah, some people really love them. So let's see. Okay, so we'll end the polling. And yeah, so I guess, wow, most of you love them. That's great. Okay, and then some of you are indifferent. And yeah, some of you don't really like it. Okay, so with that, we'll jump right in to tiles. Tiles, we'll talk about two types of tiles today. Homogeneous tiles, or also known as porcelain tiles, and ceramic tiles. So for these tiles, they are most commonly used in the market. Most of the time, my clients will ask me, what's the difference between homogeneous tiles or porcelain tiles versus ceramic tiles? So of course, there's other types of tiles like terracotta tiles, glass tiles, stone tiles, which we won't cover today because they are not commonly used. So we'll talk about what's the difference. We'll do a comparison for the difference between the two of them. So for homogeneous tiles, they're actually fired up to a higher temperature. So it's more dense, and with that, versus ceramic tiles, with that you have better hardness, means you have better scratch resistance than ceramic tiles. So chipping and all those is less likely with, and scratching is less likely with homogeneous tiles. In terms of moisture absorption, humidity, porosity is like how much it behaves like a sponge. It's less porous, so that's a good thing. So all those items that are put in green means it's actually the better column, the better property. So as you can see, homogeneous tiles have a lot more advantages over ceramic tiles. Stain resistance, better durability, but the cost is slightly higher. But generally, if let's say you're talking about China tiles or Malaysia tiles, the tile cost is maybe you can get the cheapest tiles at 2 something PSF for ceramic tiles. For homogeneous tiles, the cheaper tiles will be about 3 something PSF for homogeneous tiles. So it's generally higher, okay, unless you're talking about the very colorful ceramics that you have. So one other thing that I didn't mention here was that for appearance, homogeneous tiles are usually a bit more boring than the plain colored ones. Ceramic tiles you can find very interesting, very intricately designed patterns and colors for ceramic tiles, which is why it's still used very widely. Okay, so applications for homogeneous tiles, you can use it indoor and outdoors. Ceramic, not so much outdoors due to its properties, not so good for moisture and all that. Okay, so usually people use ceramics for indoors, for walls rather than floors, things like that. Okay. So for our clients at Flamingo Valley, okay, the flooring came with marble flooring. So our client Cheryl, they didn't like how it looked. So she was one of them that doesn't really like marble. There were scratches and a large stain on the floor. So she was thinking whether she wanted to do some repair works on the marble or to change the flooring altogether. She was worried about maintenance. So with marble, it's actually a natural material, so it's porous, very easy to stain, more difficult to maintain. You have to keep sealing the floor. So in the end, she decided to change to homogeneous tiles, and she has no regrets. Because actually with marble flooring, you will need to spend quite a bit of money and time to actually do maintenance for the marble. So usually marble sealing is every 6 months to a year, commonly done every 6 months to a year. So that's quite a hassle each time that you have to do it. So for vinyl floors, we are for vinyl floors, it's actually now very, very popular. Some of you will have heard about it. It looks like wood, and also you have appearances whereby it looks like concrete, it looks like stone materials. So it's not so common as wood appearances, but they do have them. You can most vinyl suppliers would have them. So for vinyl floors, you can actually take a look at a few things, because vinyl floors, there's a very big price range. They have things from 3 something, 4 something PSF, all the way up to 7, 8, 9, 10 PSF. So for the premium ones, like 7 PSF and above, usually they would have very, very good properties, and there's actually a very big difference between the premium ones and the not so premium ones. So the first thing is wear layer. Basically, how easy it scratches and whether you have an inconsistent surface. So sometimes it's not very obvious, but when the light comes in, when the sunlight hits the floor, you will then see that there's some scratching and inconsistent surface with the ones that have a very thin wear layer. Okay. So usually the thickness is about 5 mm. So if you can see, so it's about 5 mm of thickness. And that is the most commonly used. So it's actually a clip system. Usually we don't recommend anything less than 5 mm. If not, the clip doesn't really catch that well. So usually 5 mm or more. You can also look at the realism. You can touch it. So there will be usually the premium ones will feel more like wood, will have a texture, will not feel so plasticky, so rubbish. Okay. And of course, with that comes the slip resistance, because the plasticky, rubberish ones are usually more slippery. What is dimensional stability? So for all things, they expand and contract with heat, with the aircon they use. So for those with better dimensional stability, it doesn't actually expand and contract so much. So you have less problems over time about the planks pulling away from each other, or worse still, bumping up against each other to form a bump in your floor. So there's if let's say you get a lower quality one, you actually have to do more maintenance over time. Okay, so do watch out for these properties. So a lot of people actually ask me what's the difference between vinyl and how does it compare to natural wood like parquet. So quite commonly in our apartments we have parquet and whole houses as well. So for vinyl, it's waterproof because it's not wood at all, so it's waterproof. Natural wood, it is not. It's better in terms of scratch resistance for vinyl. For wood, as you all know, it's actually easier to scratch wood. Even the very hard ones, it's still possible to scratch it. So if you have those chairs that's on wheels, you are very likely to scratch your wood. Termites, vinyl is termite proof. Natural wood, you have the problem of termites, especially if your place has termites. Warping, for vinyl, you don't really have to worry about warping, but for natural wood, you have planks, so it can warp, especially parquet. It behaves like a large piece of wood, so it will warp, and then sometimes you have loose pieces coming out. But the good thing about natural wood is that you can actually rejuvenate it. You can sand down, you can restain it to a different color, and you can actually varnish it again. So you can rejuvenate natural wood. Luxury, of course, natural materials usually will be the luxurious items, so natural wood in this case. And the cost for vinyl is a lot lower than natural wood. Maintenance and cost is much lower for vinyl. So even in a lot of landed properties, we have actually suggested to use vinyl. We have actually installed vinyl in landed properties because they just don't want to go through the hassle of termites, of having to polish the wood or grind the wood down from time to time. So, but there are of course people who still prefer the authentic wood. So it's really up to you what you're looking at. But if you're looking at cost, vinyl is very advantageous. And but vinyl is actually mainly for indoor use. For natural wood, some people will use Burmese teak for outdoor. So you can use it for indoor, outdoor use as well. So there's also this thing called engineered wood. So besides the solid natural wood, you have engineered wood, and engineered wood will actually have better properties than natural wood. So even with termites, it's still possible to have termites, but less likely because it has been treated. Okay, so that's something that you can explore if let's say you really want authentic wood. So for our friends at Sea Horizon, it was a brand new condo at that time, and they didn't really like the flooring. It was a colder feel, white tiles. So what they wanted was something cozier, warmer. So we actually gave them the costing on how much it would cost to just overlay. So if you have a flat surface, you can actually overlay to reduce your cost. You don't have to hack out your entire flooring. So that's what we urge you to consider. Speak to the floor supplier or your interior designer to see whether it's possible to overlay instead of hacking. Okay, so you can actually overlay and this will reduce your cost significantly. Okay, so that's what we did for them. Now for walls. For walls, we will be talking about wallpaper and paint because a lot of people actually ask me about wallpaper versus paint and the pros and cons. So for paint, it's also possible to do patterns. Okay, you can actually engage an artist. So for us, we actually engage Deepa of Ovium Arts to actually paint some of our murals, which you will see a bit more later on. And we'll go through the properties first. So for wallpaper, usually you have to do a bit of maintenance every 5 years. The sides tend to peel off a little bit, and then you have to glue back the corners and the sides, the edges. For paint, you don't really have to do maintenance. In general, it fades over time. So you have to do a bit of, most people don't really do maintenance, maybe just touch up work, if any at all. So the thing about changing finishing, if let's say, especially if this is a very colorful wallpaper and you feel that okay, I'm going to do this for my kids' room, and I want to change how it looks like in a couple of years. That's fine, but with wallpaper, it will be a bit more difficult. You actually have to remove the wallpaper, scrape off the glue before you can decide what to do with your wall, to prepare the surface for what you want to do with your wall. For paint, it's easier. You can just cover it with a few coats of paint and you're good to go. Texture-wise, wallpaper is really great for special textures. Paint, not so much. There are some textured paints at quite a high price, but not so much. If let's say you're really going for texture, wallpaper has lots of texture for you to choose from. Velvety feels, all sorts of texture, linen kind of feel, they have that as well. Luxurious definitely will be wallpaper. So you see a lot of them in mansions, in hotels. There's a lot of wallpaper being used in all these areas. And usually wallpaper is great for very consistent patterns. So if you want something really consistent throughout, you can get a wallpaper. If you want something a bit more unique, a bit more special in the sense, you can get and something that doesn't have really consistent, doesn't need to have very, very consistent patterns, you can get an artist to actually paint a mural for you. So at the Crest, our client actually wanted a mural painted for their kid. So we actually got Ovium Arts to do the mural for us. And this is the other portion of it. So it really transformed the place. Of course, if it's not for children, you can look at something a bit more serious, something a bit more minimalist, and that can be done as well. So instead of a standard feature wall, you can get an artist come and paint. And it's not expensive. So like when we did this was just 1.5K for 3 walls in the home, which is not expensive at all. So depends on the artist. The pricing depends on the artist. And I want to share with you about a wallpaper we did at VaynerMedia. So if you all know Gary V, he's very famous for his YouTube videos. You all can check it out on YouTube if you don't know him. He actually started a media company, VaynerMedia, and in Singapore, we did their office earlier this year for them. And this is their wallpaper. So this wallpaper that you see here is actually custom printed by our partner, Windows Story. And it's great for commercial spaces because for commercial spaces, usually you don't have to worry about maintenance in the sense that most people actually do their renovations every 2, 3, or maximum every 5 years. Yeah, so it's quite often that they actually do some touch-up and renovation. So this custom print, you can actually get a designer to design it for you. So it can be one of a kind as well. And then we can get our partners to actually custom print it. So it's possible to custom print wallpapers as well. Okay, so now carpentry. Okay, so carpentry is a big chunk, important chunk. We'll talk about the carcass. Carcass is actually what it's made of internally, the core. Okay, and basically, generally, there's these 3 items that's being used for the carcass: plywood, medium density fiberboard, and particle board or low density fiberboard. Okay, so plywood and medium density fiberboard is most common in carpentry applications. Okay, for a carpenter to come in. Particle board and medium density fiberboard is more common for, let's say, those pole system wardrobes. Some of them are made of particle board or medium density fiberboard. And quite a lot of, you will see all 3 at IKEA. So you will see quite a bit of items from particle board, medium density fiberboard, some of it, and some from plywood. So when you go shopping at furniture shops, do take a look, see what's the material made of, and you can then have an idea of how much you should invest in this, and you should have an idea of how long later you would need to replace this. Is it for short term, like for a rental unit, you're going to replace the furniture every 2 years, or do you want to keep it a bit longer term for yourself? So plywood is basically made of thin wood layers. Okay, they're all glued together to form a solid piece. Medium density fiberboard, MDF, is actually made of wood fibers. And finally, particle board is actually made of wood chips. Okay, so from left to right, plywood generally will be the best material to use in terms of quality because it's the least sensitive to moisture and humidity. Okay. Then for strength, it's also the strongest in general. Durability, generally the most durable, but of course the most costly. But if you intend to actually keep your cabinets for a long time, we always suggest to go with plywood versus other materials, especially for strength cabinets that you need strength for. For example, you're building a bookshelf. Books are actually very heavy. Then you would want to use something a bit stronger. Plywood, some people even use metal. So I didn't talk about solid wood because solid wood is pretty different. Solid wood, you actually have a different set of carpenters. Most carpenters who do plywood carpentry do not do solid wood carpentry. The skill sets are pretty different. But what is good is that you can do very, very intricate designs. You can, and of course, it's authentic, it's real wood, but the pricing is a way, way higher than you would have for carpentry, plywood carpentry. Also, aluminium, something I want to mention. This is actually popular for high-end landed property that's near the sea. So if you have a problem with corrosion, if you're looking for certain outdoor pieces that you want to have and you're worried about corrosion, you can actually consider using aluminium. And this is not the cheap aluminium. You can actually get the very premium aluminium. So I know one of the shops that they do it in Singapore is called Alu Steel, and it's really, really expensive, about 2 to 3 times the price versus normal carpentry, plywood carpentry. But it's something that you can consider for parts of your home. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the outside. So what we stick on the wood itself. So if we're using plywood, what we stick on the plywood, we call this the finishing. Okay. So most commonly, you will have laminates. They are typically made from decorative paper with a resin. And you would have wood veneer for more premium property, more premium cabinets, more luxurious cabinets. And you will also commonly see this term PVC, which is actually plastic. So we'll go through one by one and then we'll talk about applications. In terms of appearance, laminate is really great because it has a wide range. It can come in solid colors, it can come in patterns, textures. So they will have like wood is very common, metals yes, but a lot more pricey than the usual laminate. Stone. So if let's say you want to have something that looks like marble, you can have they have that as well, or looks like granite, slate, they have that as well. Fabric, something that looks like denim, they have that as well. Okay. For wood veneer, it's luxurious, it's a luxurious item. So it's actually real pieces of wood, so it will look like wood, essentially. PVC, you have a limited color range. So if you take a look, this is about all the color range that you would have that for PVC. It's not the whole catalog's worth of it. It's comes in solid colors, it comes in wood grain. So that's a good thing that comes in wood grain as well. We'll talk a bit about it later on. So moisture sensitivity, wood veneer doesn't do so well. You'll have more susceptible to mold, water damage because it's wood. Scratch resistance, laminate will fare very well. The edging though, a lot of people like corner edges for the wood veneer because it finishes very well. But for laminate, not so much. It's more obvious because it's a bit thicker. Okay. For laminate, it may chip or peel over time. Wood veneer as well, but usually it's a more acceptable and more presentable. So, and it doesn't chip and peel such large pieces usually. Okay. PVC is very easy to peel and chip. And the cost for laminate will be average cost for wood veneer will be pretty high. And for PVC, it's very low cost. So applications usually for the external part of the cabinet and the internal. So internal means when you open the doors, what you see inside. Okay, so you can use for external, you can use for internal. Most commonly, people use it for external, and the PVC they use it for internal. So for PVC, it actually has it comes in two cost price. So one is the white base white, which when you open up everything is white. The other one is colored or wood grain. So usually colored and wood grain is the same price, okay, and it's a bit more expensive. But for us, we use all colored and wood grain because white generally have staining issues, have more problems. So we don't use white. We use something that will last longer, which would be the colored PVC for the inside. And that's usually good enough. Unless you really want to have laminate on the inside, then you have to top up for that portion of laminate, because laminate is not cheap as well, not that cheap. Yeah. Okay. And of course, a wood veneer would be the most expensive, but very luxurious, very nice. So at Water Bay, it was a brand new condominium, and we actually redesigned the whole kitchen from the developer. So we tore down everything and we built it up using quality materials like solid plywood, laminate. We like to use Formica. It's been around, it's a US brand, been around for many years. We also, this kitchen was actually done up with Southstone quartz. So we'll talk a bit more about quartz later on. And now we go into kitchens and bathrooms. So quartz, you actually have many types of, you have different grades of quartz. So the famous ones would be Caesarstone, Southstone. These two brands are very famous for their quartz, and the rest are usually China made. So the difference, there's actually a difference. For the branded ones, usually their material specs are much better. The component of the stone itself is much higher. So it's a man-made stone. So the component of stone itself is usually 90+% for these branded ones like Southstone and Caesarstone. Hafari has one that's very good also. Smart Stone is also 90+%. And most others that's from China is usually about 80+%. And the rest of it is like resin composite. So in terms of staining and all those, the branded ones would really perform better than those with lower specs. So there is a difference in grade and of course a difference in pricing as well. Having said that, quartz in itself is a very good material. So as long as it's quartz, generally you should be fine. Okay. Compact plus. So compact plus is, we will talk a bit more about it, but as you can see, it's actually very, very thin over here. So yeah, you can see it's actually just 6 mm thick. Okay, most people, but if not, you can actually do edge, but most people just leave it at 6 mm thick, and you'll have a black line, black edge at the corner for compact plus. Okay, solid surface is a bit plasticky kind of feel. Some people like it, some people don't really like it. Okay, and what's the comparison between these? I've added granite also, because a lot of people actually compare granite with quartz. So we'll talk a bit about it. So quartz is a man-made stone. Okay, granite is a natural stone. Compact plus is actually craft paper with resin. And solid surface is either acrylic or polyester blend. Okay, appearance-wise for quartz is stone-like. So it can look like marble. You have grains that look like marble. You have grains that look like, you have it, quartz that look like granite. You have, and then for granite, of course, it looks like granite itself, stone. Most commonly will be darker colors for granite, black and gray. Those are most common colors. They do have those white granite, but it's very, very rare and a lot more difficult to maintain, because at the end of the day, it's actually porous because it's a natural stone. It means it has holes in it. It's like a sponge. It can absorb stains in. So, but not as much as marble, but it's still possible. So for compact plus, you actually have the wood appearance, which makes it very popular because it's the most popular to get a wood appearance, compact plus. You can also get a stone appearance out of it, and you can also have solid colors, and you can even cut patterns on it. Okay, solid surface, you can have it look like stone. You can have it very colorful, solid colors. You can have it pink, orange. Yeah, that's all available for solid surface. So for scratch resistance, quartz and granite will perform the best. Stain resistance, all of them will perform pretty well except solid surface. Heat resistance, quartz and granite, usually stones will perform better for heat resistance. Luxury, usually stone as well. And of course, with that comes the cost. So in this case, generally, quartz is more expensive than granite. Of course, I'm not talking about the high grade white granite and the special limited edition granite, but in general, your quartz will generally will be more expensive than granite. Compact glass is not very expensive, and the lowest cost would then be solid surface. So, well, the great thing about solid surface is that you can actually do odd shapes and curves, and it actually you can do a seamless basin with solid surface. So I think at some shopping centers you would see that. Compact glass, it has a slim 6 mm profile, so some people like it, some people don't. And granite and quartz, usually it comes in 20 mm thickness. So some people do ask me what's the usual thickness. Usual thickness in the industry in Singapore is 20 mm. Okay, so now we talk, besides the countertop, now we talk about the backsplash. Okay, so one of the common types of backsplash, the backing that we use would be tiles. Okay, so just to highlight for this project, it's a bit more interesting. We actually use vinyl tiles versus the normal ceramic or homogeneous tiles in this project, because the homeowner was actually, the intent is only to keep it for 3 years and then going to sell it after that. So just for short-term use, we use vinyl tiles, but usually we will use homogeneous tiles. Okay. This is very common. Glass, okay, glass backsplash. We have aluminium backsplash. Not so common. Most of you probably have not heard about it, but it's quite interesting. We'll talk about it later. Compact glass. See, this is the wood feel that you get. And stainless steel. Okay. So what's the difference? So for tiles, in appearance, you get solid, you can have it in solid colors, you can have it in patterns. Glass is usually glossy, solid colors. Aluminium usually is glossy, solid colors, but they do have some matte brush finishes as well. Compact glass, you have the wood, the stone, the solid colors. So as I said, it's very, very popular for the wood appearance. And steel, you have the industrial appearance. Of course, you can use quartz, but quartz will be usually used in very luxury projects and a lot more expensive. But quartz is definitely on the table as well if that's something that you want to explore. Okay, so for tiles, the maintenance is a bit more difficult because of the grout lines. So for those of you who do housework and you're familiar with tiles, yeah, usually grout lines are a bit more difficult to maintain. Glass is easy to maintain. Aluminium is easy to maintain. Compact glass is easy to maintain. And steel not so easy to maintain, because actually you have to use oil to wipe it down to remove all the watermarks. If not, it won't be nice and shiny. Yeah, unless you're okay with it having a lot of watermarks. Okay. So on-site adjustments. So what I mean is that, later on, what if you wanted to drill, let's say, a towel bar to hang some kitchen towels, or you want to put a hook, or you want to have your dish drying rack, and you want to drill on something. So this is what I mean by on-site adjustments. Is it something that you can do as an afterthought? Okay, for tiles, no problem. Glass, you can't, because you can't actually cut glass on site. This actually has to be clamped down and cut in the factory. So everything has to be pre-planned. If let's say you want to have kitchen rails, you have to actually tell the glass fabricator and do it before that. If not, you're going to have a lot of costs incurred. That's going to waste your time and also waste money. Okay. For aluminium, you can do that. So that's why it's an advantage. It's like it looks like glass and all that, but you can actually do on-site adjustments. Compact glass, you can as well. Steel, you can as well. So cost-wise, usually glass costs the lowest. Okay. Tiles are pretty common, so because it's just sometimes it's part of your entire kitchen wall, so you just cost in the tiles. It doesn't cost that much more. Compact glass and aluminium is generally a bit more expensive, okay, but it has a very unique look and unique properties. So it's worthwhile considering as well. And still not so popular nowadays, but if you really like it, it depends on the grade of steel that you use. And even stainless steel, that it can rust over time. So there will be rust. It may not be 100% no rust, depending on the grade that you select. So what are these barriers that we can have that for us from selecting materials with no regrets? So I would say that one of it would actually be awareness of the options available. Most of us, especially we do it for the first time, we are actually not aware of the options available for that's available out there. We don't know of all the options. Okay. Next, of course, we'll be unfamiliar with materials. So this is to give you an idea of the materials today. Also, you are too familiar with the materials. What I mean is that, it could be something that you've always used your whole life. For example, parquet, and you're very comfortable with it, and you may not want to, or even though it may give you a lot of trouble, you may not want to move on. So that could actually be a barrier also. And of course, for certain materials, the upfront investment, because generally in renovation, if you pay more for a material, usually the quality is better, but then comes your upfront investment will be higher, even though in the long run, you may actually save on maintenance. Okay, so these are usually the barriers that we may have. Okay, so very importantly, what do? We want to ask you, when you are selecting materials, what are your needs? So it's different for everyone, for every household. So maybe quartz would suit a particular household, but not another household. So what are your needs? Okay, so for us, like I mentioned, we have a space optimization blueprint. The first thing that you would do when you're doing a renovation is to start with your scope. What is your lifestyle? What are your needs? How often do you cook? What are your daily habits? Okay. Next, site survey. Are you in a place? How's your apartment or landed property like? Is there a lot of sun coming in certain areas? Is it very humid? Are you very near the sea? So all this actually plays a part in what materials you should be selecting. Third would then be the appearance. Okay, so when you do the drawings, of course, besides having all the great properties, it should gel very nicely into your design theme that you're looking for. Again, when you're you're doing furniture sourcing, you can bear the materials in mind. Not only that, you should have your budget in mind. So each line, what is important to you, how much you should be spending, how much you want to spend on the TV, how much you want to spend on the sofa. Some people would spend a lot on the TV and less on the sofa, vice versa. Okay, so you list all of that out. And of course, when you go shopping, you get to touch the actual material. A lot of things you see online, the colors and all those is very different. The feel, you won't be able to feel it at all. So you go shopping, you touch and shop for the actual materials and products that you're looking at. And then finally, of course, implementation, where the renovation work is actually being done, and home staging and moving in, getting everything in and moving in. Okay, so if you follow these 7 steps, you shouldn't go too wrong in selecting your materials. So where do you start now? Okay, first step is the in-depth assessment of what you need, as I mentioned. So your lifestyle, durability period means how long you're looking to keep your property, your budget, and of course your personal preferences, whether you like it, you don't like it. Okay, so how do you know what material suits your needs? You should consult with either an experienced interior designer or contractor, get a general idea. And if let's say you need very detailed specifications, you may request for them from your interior designer if they provide such services, or if not, you can approach the suppliers directly, and I'm sure they'll be happy to help you. And how do you know what you're paying for? So ask for the specifications of the material. Most suppliers are able to do so, and if you want, you can go one step further and ask them for a comparison with other materials. And of course, there's always Google when in doubt. So will you need to go above your planned budget? Okay, not necessarily, okay, because what we want to do is that take stock of your total renovation budget in detail, including your additional costs like furniture, lighting, accessories, etc. Okay, and then go in line by line to see what's really important for you to spend on and cut back on others. Okay, so now now we'll go through the items that you need to succeed, which would be, of course, a proven system. So if you follow the outline, as well as mentioned, your detailed, methodical system, you have somebody to guide you, okay, especially if they can go the extra mile to give you all the knowledge that you need, and of course, resources and support. So basically, your suppliers in Singapore, what's available, what you can get, what you have to bring in, and access to this information. Okay, so if you have all these three, I'm sure you'll be able to select materials with no regrets. Okay, so you have two ways to do it. You can do it yourself, or you can have it done for you. Of course, if you do it yourself, it takes a lot more time. You have to invest a lot more time, and then for getting it done for you, you just need to get someone, an expert, to come in and get it all done for you. Okay. So I'm going to be proceeding to the next part. If all of you are okay over here, I'm going to actually be sharing with you on how you can get the train to bring this further. So if you are all still with me and okay to proceed, first type a yes in the chat. Okay, let me know, type a yes in the chat. You're good to go. Great. Okay. So now we have covered in the last 45 to 50 minutes or so, we've covered about how interior designers always select the best materials for their home. So we went through all the comparisons. We talked about how to save money in the long run and selecting materials with no regrets. And we've also covered the process to do so. Okay, so what we call the space optimization blueprint. Okay, so now I'll proceed on to the next section. Okay, whereby for us, we actually launched this HYJK pilot, what we call the HYJK pilot. It's actually an interior design pilot project. Okay, you can try now before you buy at $488. So what does this mean? Usually what we'll do is that we'll focus on an area, either your kitchen or living room, because that sets the tone for the rest of the home. And we will actually do the layout plan, the construction detail drawing, a 3D perspective drawing for it as well. Okay, so in doing that, what you have a very solid plan of how it's going to look like, how your space is going to look like, and you can actually then have used the construction drawings to pass to a carpenter or a contractor to actually fabricate what you need. So for webinar bonus, if let's say you know about this pilot through the webinar, we will actually be giving you a space optimization assessment. So you will do this assessment and you will get a lot of details on exactly what you need. And we'll also be giving you a color palette, so 3 directions. So some people like wood, gray, white, but wood, gray, and white can have many different color directions. So we will be able to give that to you as well. And online design consultation, this is for items above and beyond the scope. So if let's say you're doing up your living room and you want to ask something for your bedroom, you want to consult about bedrooms, you want to ask about materials for your bedrooms, this will be the free consultation that's part of this package. And of course, this package, in it, you'll be able to select materials with no regrets, and of course save money in the long run, because we will advise you accordingly. We will design and advise you according to your home, your lifestyle. So this is not for everyone. It's only for those looking to renovate your apartment or landed property, or let's say you just want to redesign a small portion of your home, not your whole home. That's fine as well. And of course, you must believe in practical and functional design, and you should be a done for you kind of person. If you're a DIY kind of person, then this is probably not for you. Okay. And if you decide that isn't right for you, for us, we stand by this HYJK pilot project with a money back guarantee. because we've extensively tested it and we know that our process works, so we can take on this risk. So when you engage us and we have presented our work and you're not satisfied, even after providing all the details that we require, you can let us know and that you like a refund. Okay, so this is what some of our clients say about us. Okay, they find us detail oriented. They find that we get our contractors and all our suppliers to actually get their homework done first. So when they go to the shops, they already know what they have to offer the client. They already know all the parameters and the scope. Okay, so they found it very easy working with us. Okay, so they also believe that our design is good and the quality that we use is good. So testimonials on that. And also planning. We do a lot of planning. We go into a lot of details. We are very transparent with our costs. Okay, and we like to provide different options and with all the different costings. So everything is very clear. If you go for option A, this is the cost. If you go for option B, this is the cost. And people find us responsible and responsive as well. So as I said, this is a done for you project for done for you people. So this is the type of company that we are. We are more of a done for you company. Okay? So why did we launch this? We want to see if we are matched. Because a lot of times, people's renovation costs $50,000, $100,000, or even more than that. And it's actually a very big leap of faith, too big a leap of faith. Especially in this period whereby all of us have to be careful with our spending, cut back on our spending, be tighter in our budgets. So we understand that, and we also don't want to waste your time. So we want to see whether we are a good match, and also to mitigate your risk, to lower your risk, and get to know us a bit better. Once you're comfortable, we can then proceed on further. And this $488, if let's say you decide to do the interior design project with us, this will be absorbed and it can be used to offset the cost of the interior design project, the full interior design project. So our mission is actually a beautiful world, one home at a time. So that's what we are doing over here. We are starting in Singapore and we want to build beautiful homes, a beautiful world. Okay? So if this is something that's for you, that you're keen and you want to find out more about it, just book a call with us. You can go to calendly.com/hyjk/30 minutes. It's already in the chat. Rachel has already put it into the chat. Okay, so as I mentioned, you get all your plans, your layout plans, your construction drawings, your 3D perspective drawing, one view. You have the webinar bonus, the assessment, the consultation, the color palettes, and additional bonus, but only for the first 5 signups, because we can't give this to everyone. We will actually give you detailed material specification for what you need for this area. And we also give you a resource directory for furnishing and accessories, because we have a whole list of resources and suppliers, and we will share this resource directory with you in relation to your project. So as I said, if you decide this is not right for you, there's the money back guarantee. And if let's say you need more information, just arrange a call with me. You can do so right now. So I will suggest that you can do the booking right now, and then we can get on call these few days, and we can proceed further on that. Okay. So something else on our Facebook page. If you're not following our Facebook page, you can check out our Facebook page. We have a lot of engagement, more tips. We just had a HYJK 7-day challenge on space optimization. So you can check out our videos and tips on space optimization for your home. We will actually be having a quiz on this webinar. So just for fun, okay? So watch out for a quiz in the next few days. And I would like to end off with a quote from our favorite designer, Charles and Ray Eames. Okay, the details are not in the details, they make the design. So this is the chair that is actually designed by husband and wife Charles and Ray Eames in the 1950s. You will see all over Singapore, many cafes, offices, they have this. I have it right in my own home. I'm sitting on it now. It's an amazing chair. There's a lot of history on it. on why it's such an expensive chair, or why one of these actually costs $800 in Singapore, things like that. So it's they are just sharing a bit on Charles and Red Eames and our favorite quote. And now we will get to the Q&A. Do you all have any questions? If you have any questions, just put them into the chat. Okay, just drop them into the chat and I will respond to these questions. Okay, so there's a question on how pet-proof is vinyl. It is pet-proof in the sense that, okay, let's say talking about dogs and cats, vinyl is probably one of the most resilient materials that you can be using for your floor. Of course, it's not scratch-proof if your cat really decides to really scratch it up, which I understand that most cats should not be doing that. Then that would be an issue, of course. But most of the time, vinyl is definitely suitable for cats, for dogs as well. Yeah. So and if let's say you're worried about harming them, you can check the specs with the suppliers. But most of them actually are not harmful for pets and very suitable for pets as well. So I have hamsters at home. They crawl all over our vinyl floor. So far so good. Their lifespan is average lifespan. Okay, so I would say yeah, pets vinyl should be great for pets. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so quite a number of clients looking at price rather than quality. So like what I suggested, you have a budget, you go through all of that. Okay, so what you do is that you go through your entire budget, not just the renovation itself. Okay, and then that's when you should be prioritizing. So for us, we sit down for clients and prioritize what's important to you, what's not so important to you, and then from the entire wish list, we take a look and then we compromise and we work within the budget. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so marble flooring in the bathrooms, are they usually polished? My new condo feels a little powdery. Yes, they are usually polished before they hand over, and but sometimes it's not very well sealed. So I would suggest getting a very good residential sealer for marble, and or commercial sealant that they use. So for example, they use at Takashimaya, they have the commercial sealants. This will last a lot longer, so you don't have to keep polishing the marble in your bathrooms or in your living room. So usually they come, they'll be very shiny, very slippery and polished, and yes, sometimes you have the powder that's residue from the polishing. So sometimes you would see that. Okay, so okay, yeah. So that's that. But if you have marble in your homes, do take note that you should seal it, especially if you have dogs and cats or other animals that will vomit, pee, poop around. It's very, very important. Or even if you don't have that, I know of someone who they played mahjong overnight. One of our clients played mahjong overnight, and then they spilled coke, and there goes their marble, about 1 square meter worth of marble that they have to change. So it's very important for marble that you seal it. Is not easy to maintain. So similarly for myself, actually I really don't like marble. So my home flooring came with marble, and we overlay with vinyl. Okay. So any other questions? Okay, is it common for marble floor in bathroom to be treated slip-proof? Not so common. They do have this treatment, but honestly, it's not as effective as you think it would be. Okay, we've actually explored it before for our clients, but it doesn't really help that much, and also it doesn't last forever. Similarly, you would have to keep doing these treatments over time. Yeah, it's not there forever, especially for high traffic areas where you always walk on. Yeah. Okay, so not so common in Singapore, but people have explored it, and also sometimes it still feels quite slippery. So we actually did explore. You can go to the suppliers, get the actual samples, or ask them to do a sample on the tile or the marble that you are using to see how effective is this slip-proof. And so the one that we tried wasn't that effective. Yeah. So okay, so Matte and feels powdery. Okay, you can check in with your developer to see whether that's actually supposed to be the finishing product. Is it supposed to be a matte look or is it a polished look? Most commonly, it's actually a polished look, especially for the living area. But sometimes may want to use a matte look because the matte finishing will actually be less slippery than the very glossy finishing. So you might want to check with your developer just to be sure. Yeah, so if let's say it's meant to be matte, then that's fine. But if it's meant to be glossy, then you can actually raise a defect and they can come and help you to do that polishing. Okay, so sintered surface for kitchen and countertop. Sorry, what is sintered? Sintered. Let me just check. Sintered surface. Did I get that right? Sintered surface. Oh, so it's a compact surface. Sintered stone. Okay. To be honest, I'm not so familiar with it. So Vulcan services. But from what I see here, it's actually a type of okay, so similar to use in quartz and porcelain surfaces. Decton and oh, okay. So Decton I know. So Decton is from Southstone. Yeah. So those are really great, luxurious, high-end items. If let's say I'm getting you right, and this is similar to what I see on Google about Decton. Decton is actually like a higher-end kind of quartz. So Decton is the brand from Southstone Constantino, and it is actually like quartz, but even better. And it's really great because you can have, like, for example, the front of your kitchen island, you can use that surface. Your kitchen backing, you can use that. You can have walls with that. So it's a really, really amazing, but you would have to be prepared to spend quite a bit on it. But it's really a good material. If you have the budget, I would say why not? It's very nice, very pretty, very beautiful, very lasting. Yeah. Okay, compact glass able to provide seamless design for long countertop. Okay, no. For long countertops, right, there's always going to be a joint line because it comes in pieces. So we will have to decide where your joint lines are going to be. Also, you have the issue of actually, if let's say it's not a landed property and it's a lift, you have the issue of it actually being able to put it into the lift, or whether you can carry up the staircase and pay them for labor for doing so. So for it comes in pieces, so you would have that solid surface. Potentially you can actually do it seamlessly, but same thing, you might have a problem with the lift. Okay, so for your HDB, the skirting is the same tile as floor. For your condo, the marble flooring, but skirting is wood, which is not practical for cleaning. Is this common? It really depends on the architect for the condo. I would say what is commonly done is usually if you are using marble, you will use a marble skirting. If you are using tile, you will use a tile skirting. That's what is commonly done. But sometimes due to design and architectural artist impressions, and they would actually use timber skirting instead of marble skirting to do so. So I would say it's not as common. Usually we match it to the material. Okay, so some recommend vinyl can be used in kitchen, but some don't. Share with us your thoughts. Okay, for vinyl can be used in kitchen for no issue, especially so unless you're looking to pour water to wash your kitchen, I would suggest not to do so. So if it's going to be very, very wet, like a bath area or an area you're just really going to use a pail of water and pour water, I would say no. But most kitchens, especially open concept kitchens, we will use vinyl. Even in my own home, and I cook very often, every day, with and without COVID, I cook every day. And I actually use vinyl for the last 5 years, no issues. You can use a mop to mop it up and all that. So I would say go for it, especially if it's a small apartment, especially if you want it to feel more continuous, and if it's an open concept kitchen, it would be ideal if your flooring extends throughout the entire home as far as possible, of course with the exception of the bathrooms. That will actually make your small home feel, or your big home feel even more spacious. Okay. Okay. So the purpose of skirting. Okay. So for example, if let's say you want to use a wet mop and mop the floor, okay, usually it will pick up some dirt. And then if your wall is painted, when you mop the wall, right, it will also have quite a bit of dirt that transfers onto the wall. So the skirting actually helps to prevent that. Okay, so a lot of dirt that's from the floor, you won't, when you do mopping and all that, you won't really see that happening with a skirting. So most of the time, we will suggest to have a skirting rather than not have it. Yeah, because there's a lot of practical purposes, and I guess almost everyone in Singapore mops their home, so you will be facing issues like that. Engineered wood, repeat the pros and cons again. Engineered timber, sorry. Okay, so engineered wood is great for the luxury field, because at the end of the day, it's real wood. And what happens below it is like plywood below, okay, and then you have the top. So this engineered wood is actually treated, most of the time they will treat it for quite a bit of things. So if you're comparing it to real wood, it's really advantageous. It will less likely to warp, which is something that you find problematic in 100% wood. And you will find it that it's less problematic with pests, though not 100%. If there's termites, if you have a termite problem, you will probably, over time, your engineered wood will not be able to escape as well. But it will be better than, it will be, there will be a bit more termite resistance, okay? Besides that, you, in terms of moisture and humidity, expansion, contraction, generally your engineered wood should perform better. So that's why they actually introduced engineered wood, which is, I would say, maybe usually it will be slightly cheaper, may or may not be slightly cheaper than the 100% solid wood, and it has all these advantageous properties. We've installed it on bay windows that we have used at the interlace. So there's a lot of sunlight that comes in, and they have bay windows all over. We've installed it there, and it works very, very well. Okay, so I would say if you're considering engineered wood versus real wood, real solid pieces of wood, whether it's oak or whatever it is, it's something that you should consider. Yeah, engineered wood, it's still very luxurious, and it comes with in all sorts of plank sizes as well, like you would have for real wood. Yep, and budget-wise, you might be able to save a bit as well. So, do you have any advice on how to maintain polished marble flooring? Normal vacuuming and mopping enough to keep it clean and shiny for long. Okay, so if you have polished marble, right, I would say you will need to keep, you have to be very careful with stains. Usually the problem is with stains, not the regular maintenance. The minute you spill something, like whether it's lemon juice, wine, oil, you have to wipe it up immediately and as cleanly as possible. Okay, even if you have sealed your floor, it's not 100%. Sealing your floor is not 100%. It helps a lot, but it's not 100%. So yeah, generally normal vacuuming and mopping, but do not use very strong chemicals. So actually there are, like if you go to Home Fix and all of that, or to a hardware store, Homey, you can buy online, they actually have special cleaners for marble. Especially if your marble is expensive, you might want to invest in these special cleaners versus using some of them from the supermarkets, which may not be so suitable for marble, because sometimes the chemicals are very acidic, or they're just too strong for marble. And marble is not good for that. Yep. Okay. What about the cons of engineered wood? So if let's say at the end of the day, you can still get pests. At the end of the day, you can still have warping issues. You can still have rotten wood because it is still made of wood, plywood, but it's still wood. So it will last longer. And if you're comparing it with vinyl flooring and talking about, let's not talk about luxury, just talk about maintenance, then I would say at the end of the day, vinyl flooring will still be a lot more advantageous. Of course, it's cheaper to begin with, and in terms of the look at, it's not luxurious. It won't feel as 100% like wood, but engineered would be, but you will not have problems like termites. You won't have so much expansion contraction problems. You would still have some with vinyl as with any material, but not as bad as engineered wood, and of course then solid wood would have generally have the most kind of problems depending on what kind of solid wood that you select. Of course, things like Burmese teak and all those very good for tropical countries, better for humidity, that will perform a bit differently. So any treatment for dirty grout or any ways to avoid any stain, I would say cleaning regularly. If you leave the grout stains there for a very long time, it's going to be a lot more difficult to clean. So they do have those cleaners, like the one I'm using is Magic Clean. So you can just squirt on it and leave it there for a while before cleaning immediately. So at least the chemicals will actually go in and actually do most of the work for you. And cleaning it regularly. And actually, by right, we don't practice this in Singapore, but most of the time, actually, if you go online and you take a look, people are supposed to re-grout your place actually every year. But no one does it in Singapore. Yeah, but if you go online in the Western nations, it's very common. They actually re-grout every year. Okay. Okay, how to maintain a clean solid top since like cheaper is prone to stains and scratches. Okay, so for solid top, right, you have to be very careful about heat. So when you cook, especially if you're going to do any cooking on solid top, if you have a pot, you can't put that hot pot directly on the solid surface top. It will melt. Most likely it will melt. So like if you go to the shopping centers, you see some of the countertops that are actually made of solid surface, and you see cigarette butt stains. Yeah, so once it happens, it's very difficult to remove all this melting and the stains. Very, very difficult to do that. How to maintain? It will just be normal cleaning and all of that. And same thing, like with marble, the minute you see like you spill something on it, as soon as you can, wipe it out. Don't leave it there for hours, because the longer you leave it there, the more it's going to actually the stain is actually going to be more difficult to remove, if at all. Yeah, you can get the solid surface folks to come down to actually remove the stain, but they cannot guarantee it. They will try their best. In certain cases, they can do it. Certain cases, they really can't. So, like with all stains, when you with all spills and stains, the minute you have something there, as fast as possible, clean it up. And if you can, get a lot darker colored solid surface rather than pure white. Pure white is going to be really difficult to maintain. Okay, so epoxy grout. Okay, what are the advantages over regular grout? Okay, to be honest, I won't answer that because I'm not actually that familiar with it. I know epoxy flooring and all those, but epoxy grout, unless you're talking about the Korean ones that they use, that's really expensive grout. I would say application labor-wise for those Korean ones, those will be more expensive, because it's actually more difficult to apply. We have tried to apply those types before. We bought them from Xinjiang, $30 a tube, not cheap, and we tried to apply. And it's supposed to be antimicrobial. So basically, it's not supposed to get moldy so often. But with all of these types of grout, if that's the grout you're talking about, over time, it will lose that property. So over time, you will still get moldy silicone, just not so quickly. Okay. So how to remove stains on solid top? Any home fix tips? Okay, I'm not really sure. Normally, when it's handed over to us, we will actually get the experts in, which is the solid surface folks, our partners, to actually in, because the stains are really, really old. Solid surface tops also yeah, they don't really have, even home fix and all those, they don't really have this kind of chemicals. You might have to buy, have to search online, not sure whether they have it. Yeah, because most of the time, all these chemicals are used to clean stone surfaces, other surfaces, but not so much and stains or solid surface top. To be honest, it's really quite tough to do that. And if let's say you use like something that's a bit too hard, like one of those sponges that's very, very rough, and you try to scrape it off, you're going to scratch your solid surface top. So it's not advisable to do so as well. Yeah. So I would say really not so easy to fix an issue with the solid surface top. From what I understand, they probably use some chemical and they actually they do a bit of grinding. The experts, when they come in, from what I understand, they do a bit of grinding, but to a certain extent only. Not it's not 100%. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so if you have more questions, just arrange a consultation with us. So it doesn't have to be about the HYJK pilot. It can be about anything, about this webinar. Okay, no obligations, or we're not not going to do a sales call, things like that. So just book a call with us, and we'll be more than happy to help you with all of your queries. Okay. Yeah. So with that, we want to just launch one last poll to see what you would like to hear about in the next webinar. Okay, so if you all have not seen, you can get the material specification template at tinyurl.com/hyjk material spec. Okay, so you can download that. If let's say you like to get it DIY, if you're a DIY kind of person, that will help you. Okay, and even if you're not DIY, if you're engaging a contractor or interior designer, that's going to help you to actually take a look at the, you know, how you can organize your material specifications, your floors, walls, carpentry, furniture. You can use that. You can use that for all your different rooms. Okay. Okay. Great. So I think we can share the poll. It's about slightly more people are looking for life hacks for your home, how to design a green home and save the earth. Half of you are actually looking at creating more space in your home. So we will be doing a rerun for how to create more space in your home, because I understand that actually a lot of you found it, those in the webinar actually found it very useful. And so we will be doing a rerun in the upcoming weeks. So do watch out for that if that's what you're looking for. Yeah, and some of you want to do more advanced. So I guess a lot of you are actually requesting for life hacks for your home. Okay, we'll look at that. So some of you called me and actually asked me for cleaning tips. So how, especially for the bathroom grout. Okay, so let me check with certain experts and see how we can best tackle that. I guess that's every household's nightmare. And we thank you so much. We'll be sharing. We have shared the results with you of the poll. Thank you so much for actually coming here today. We appreciate you and your time and being so engaging. You have been wonderful audience. And yeah, so as I said, anything else, just reach out to me at calendly.com/hyjk/30 minutes. Okay, so with all that, we will be ending this webinar.